I looked the devil in the eye.
A mysterious man walks into a family-owned Houston wig shop on the busiest shopping day of the year and stabs 3 people in broad daylight for reasons that nobody can understand. Manny Silverio, a longtime employee at the wig shop, was murdered that day. The owners of the wig shop, Roland and Roberta Ingrando, were seriously injured, and their lives were forever changed. Oh my
Hello.
God. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So
look
long
beautiful.
to see you. Ooh.
You're shaking.
You look gorgeous.
So do you. You look just the same.
Thank you. 24 years went by.
Almost 25.
25 almost, yeah.
Wow. So the trial was in 2000.
Like yesterday.
Isn't it?
Every night I think about.
You want to talk about it? It's okay?
That's okay. I might cry, but...
That's all right. I'm crying too.
It was Friday the 27th of November. I decided to close early. So I went to go and lock the door. But he was faster than me. He barged in so fast. And Manny was there. She said, "You must be joking." I didn't even know he had a knife. I have the money in the drawer. I said, "You want the money here?"
So weird.
But wanted no money. Manny screamed. She screamed one scream. Manny slipped as he ran away, but in 2 steps, he got it. He did it like this to slice her. I don't know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was just something out of the horror movie. I can't believe this happened to us.
It's police.
Hello?
Yes.
I have an emergency case. We've been attacked by a robber.
You've been attacked? Do you need an ambulance?
Yes, please.
Saddle on to ambulance.
One person barely breathing, the other hurt bad.
Boy, it's heartbreaking for me now to hear this stuff. I could actually hear the complainant being assaulted while we're receiving the call in the dispatch office.
Day after Thanksgiving, 1998, just finished medical school and was doing my residency surgical training. And I'm on my way to my parents' house. My dog needed some extra dog food. I'm driving past where there's a wig store and there's a post office. And it's very interesting because I saw a 18 to 20-year-old kid or so, and it looked like he was holding something in his hand as he's running very, very quickly out of the wig store. That's very odd. Something is going on there. Being observant is super mandatory in a job like a physician. So I follow him slowly in my car, and he's running towards the back of the parking lot. He got into this brand new Lincoln Navigator. As I pull behind the car, I thought to myself, let me write down his license plate really quickly on a sheet of paper. And as he passes me up, I saw him just 3 quick glances of his face, and then he zooms off. Certainly his demographic of a young man running very quickly out of a wig store is off. Something's going on, something's wrong in the wig store. Maybe I could help. Right when I opened the wig store, nothing was normal. There was a lot of blood everywhere, and right in between the front and the back section of the store, I see a lady on the ground. There's 2 people screaming in the back section of the store. The lady that was screaming, she had some blood spots on her chest and her arms, and there was an older man there. Part of me just turns into doctor mode, and I turn the lady that was on the ground, and I try to resuscitate her, but her throat was completely cut. And there's no way to save her at all.
The officers are arriving at the scene. There's blood everywhere. Bloody curlers, blood on the phone that was used to call the police, wigs all over the place. And then as you walk into the store, you're going to notice the blood dripping along the floor. And it leads you into the rear of the store where the worst part of the crime scene is. And there's what we call it signs of struggle. This was a bad one. They had 3 people stabbed. The 2 owners of the store, their husband and wife, Roberta and Roland Ingrando, were both transported to the hospital. The injuries were serious, especially with Roberta. She'd been stabbed 14 times. Her husband was stabbed twice. The other female was found dead, stabbed to death.
My mom worked at Wigs by Andre for over 24 years. She loved doing hair. She worked a lot with cancer patients, their wigs, their hair, making them feel good.
Making them feel like themselves again, which was very important.
She worked with Roberta and Roland Ingrando.
They had a friendship.
Roberta did the wigs with her, and Roland pretty much ran the office.
Black Friday after Thanksgiving. But we knew that was going to be a busy day for her.
I called her, got to talking to her, and all of a sudden, I heard the doorbell at Wigs by Andre. And then she says, well, I've got to let you go. She goes, I got a customer that just came in.
No, that was a devil that came in.
Yes.
Oh my God, Dr. Beckman is freaking jackpot. He saw something wrong and wrote down the license plate number. That's really unusual in the real world. And he's crucial to this case. He is a witness from heaven.
When the investigators got the license plate number, they called it into the office. Hey, can you run down this license plate and tell us where it comes back to? The house that the vehicle's registered to came back to Mr. Goldberg on Dunstan Street, which is very close to the wig shop.
Yeah, suspect is white male, approximately 5'8".
When we arrived, we walked to the backside of the house and we see the Lincoln Navigator. The Navigator is still warm to the touch, which indicated it had been recently driven. The only person at the home is the maid. She said that the homeowner was out of town for vacation.
When the officers are out there in front of the house, they're talking to the maid. They look up the driveway, they see a young white male that matches the description that the witness gave us at the scene walking towards them. He's a white male, late teens, early 20s, slim build, short hair.
We asked him who he was. He identified himself as Drew Goldberg, the homeowner's son. We informed him what we were there for. He said he didn't know, what we were talking about.
We can't search the Navigator yet because it doesn't belong to him. He can't give consent. So we make a determination what to do next, which is to collect the vehicle so we can process it after we get a warrant.
And then we asked him for permission to do a search of his truck. And he's cooperative. We have a brutal murder that involves a knife. And during that search, we discovered a knife.
These journals were a window into a sick mind.
In his writing, there was a title, How to Kill Women. Do you feel pretty?
That's the things that he told Roberta as he's stabbing her.
When the knife was found in Drewer's pickup truck, it was a double-edged knife. But this is Texas. Everybody's got a knife. I got a knife in my purse, so that was not enough to lead to an immediate arrest. 20-year-old Drewer Goldberg had direct access to the vehicle that was seen driving away from the wig shop, and he matches the description provided by Dr. Beckman.
One of the things we discovered how close Goldberg lived to the location where the murder took place at his dad's house. If he wanted, he could have changed cars within a short period of time.
Drewer agreed to give a written statement. Drewer is asked, did you go to the wig shop today? Did you kill anybody today? And the answer to those questions were no.
Around the time that this incident took place, he really can't tell us where he was at or what he was doing. That's what we call an homicidal clue. They took a Polaroid picture of Goldberg and they placed it in what we call a six-pack, a six-figure photo spread, and they presented it to the witness.
The photos were kind of a dot matrix type of a printing, and the print quality wasn't that great. However, I picked out Goldberg, and they asked me how certain I was, and I said about 80% or so, and they asked me why. And I said, well, it couldn't be 100% based upon the quality of the printing.
Drawer consented to a video lineup. We already had one witness that we're pretty sure can identify him. We're hoping that Mrs. Ingrando can identify him as the person that attacked her. But she's in rough shape at the hospital. Roland lost his glasses during the struggle. He felt that due to this, he didn't get a good look at the suspect. We didn't really have enough at this point, and we released Drawer to his mom.
Roland and Roberta were still injured and in the hospital that night. They needed a couple of days to recover in order to give a better ID. Dr. Beckman's identification, he pegged at 80%. Because of that, they chose to let Drawer Goldberg go that night without filing the charges to try and make the case better and stronger to satisfy the beyond a reasonable doubt burden of proof in the courtroom.
Miss Ingrando recovered to a point where they could talk to her.
Where were you when he started cutting on you?
I was
there?
right there. Do you want to
Come
go?
show me. Come show me.
I got the phone. He took off the phone and he sliced.
That's still your scar, huh?
Yeah, it's still the scarf there. Oh. Yeah. After he do this, he punches here. He punctured my lungs. He punctured my heart and my intestine, and here, all over. Because, I was moving around and he just got all over my body. He just whispered in my ear. And he said, oh, now I'm going to cut your nose. I'm going to cut your ear. I'm going to make you pretty. And he started cut here, his neck, just...
You can still remember all that?
Yes.
I just sit in the office and work on papers, The thing that woke me up was the shrill, the death scream. Manny's death scream. So I just came in. He was holding Roberta up by the neck and stabbing her. When he saw me, he released her and she fell to the floor and tried to grab him by the neck. And that's when he sliced this hand and this part of the stomach there. I had thrown some curlers at him, and he just turned and ran out.
Before you fainted, do you remember you looked into his eyes?
Oh, yes.
How do you forget him?
How you can forget it? Memory never gonna fade. I always go around and see what I could have done for Manny not to be dead. What I should have done. It's really terrible.
The news is on in my bedroom. I'll never forget this as long as I live. The news is on, and all I see is the wig shop and yellow tape around. And they said 2 survivors. We drove to Ben Tom. In the waiting room, we went downstairs and I was asking for my mom. They didn't have her. Roland's sister came up to me and said, I'm so sorry, Manny didn't make it. Manny didn't make it, and I couldn't believe what she was saying to me. And I passed out right there.
What was his motive for him to go in and kill and go? Why would he do this?
She was everything we had.
Yes.
She was 18 years old when she migrated from Cuba. She went to beauty school right away, and then she became a hairdresser. And that was her entire life. She loved doing hair.
Yes, she did.
And this is a beautiful picture.
This is the last Thanksgiving my mom had with my sister. She's in the back right here. She went to work, and, who would have thought that, I don't know, if...
It's all the what ifs. What if she wouldn't have gone to work that day?
Yeah. Every day.
That is what we got to live with.
Mm-hmm.
The primary thing you have that's really good is you have a living witness. Roberta. She recovered it to a point where the detectives presented her with a video lineup.
There was a lineup of the guys, and he was right by the end. But when I saw his eyes, I know it was him.
She was able to make an identification of the suspect. So the detectives knew they were on the right course, building their case. When you talk about murder cases today, evidence is super important. Everyone has watched these CSI shows for the last 20 years. And any circumstantial case that I've worked, I've always wanted to have one big thing. But this case didn't have a lot of little things. Eventually, we were able to obtain a search warrant to process the Lincoln Navigator with the plates that the witness wrote down for us at the scene. They were able to cover fibers that were consistent with those coming from a wig. How many people have wig hairs in their car?
The circumstantial evidence case against Dror Goldberg is building. We don't have any DNA evidence, and we don't have a motive, but those are not required in order to get an indictment for murder. But all of the little pieces of evidence that we do have point to Dror Goldberg. It took 3 months to get enough evidence to indict Dror Goldberg for the murder of Manny Silverio. And then HPD finds out that Dror is nowhere to be found when it's time to get him arrested. He's not here. Damn. It's been 3 months now since the attacks and murder at a family-owned wig shop here in Houston, and the evidence is still adding up against Dror Goldberg. We have positive identifications from both Roberta Ingrando and Dr. Beckman. And HPD processing the Navigator tells us that we have wig fibers found inside that vehicle. However, the knife found in Dror's pickup truck is a double-bladed knife, and the medical examiner told HPD they were looking for a single-edged knife, so it's not the murder weapon. But we have enough evidence to get Dror Goldberg indicted for murder, and then HPD finds out he's missing.
A Houston resident, investigators believe Goldberg is on the run.
You have to get Dror Goldberg back to start the process of the criminal justice system. But Dror Goldberg's parents tell the media that he's gone off traveling the world, but they're not able to reach him. I don't think anybody ever believed that. Nobody knows where he is. If you knew where he was, you could figure out whether or not you could get him arrested or in custody or extradited. But at that time, they didn't even know where to start looking.
No, people were randomly called. And in Houston, the Crime Stoppers was very popular. And then it was out in the media that Goldberg was among the missing. We had Goldberg sightings in Mexico. We had Goldberg sightings in New York. We had Goldberg sightings all over the place. It was like whack-a-mole. I'd get a clue and I'd run it down. There was nothing to it. Pre-9/11, you didn't have all this automatic scanning and you didn't have cameras in the airport. It was a little easier to disappear. We had no idea where this kid was.
Wherever he's hiding, we're going to find him. We'll shake this world, turn it upside down, but we will find him.
Our mother was not going to be just a number.
Yes.
We wanted to go out there and find answers.
The police held a press conference to tell us that he was nowhere to be found, so we held a press conference.
Anybody that's seen anything, just anybody, so please help us.
That's it. The media's going to help us.
While survivors walk the neighborhood armed with his picture, investigators say the suspect could be on the run overseas. He could be long gone.
That he could be long gone, exactly. We need him to come back to justice.
The media followed us. They followed us to put the posters out.
Day and night. They
followed us.
Yvonne and Yvette, they are a textbook example of what all families should do who've lost a loved one. They complained, they rallied, they hung up flyers, they tried everything.
How badly you want this guy?
I want him bad.
If all victims' families understood that they had the right to complain that loudly to get justice for their loved one, more cases would get solved in this country. Good for them.
Everybody thought we were just going to sit back and it wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't going to be that way.
We're too determined.
My mother deserved it.
Dror Goldberg's family hired Dick DeGuerin. Dick DeGuerin had at that time fought and won a lot of very high-profile cases, and he had a formidable reputation. and he would do anything to win. You have to appreciate that everything that Dick does comes with the intimidation factor. Not just prosecutors and witnesses and cops, judges are intimidated by him too. When he walks in the courtroom, he commands the courtroom. His experience was way greater than mine back then. He was the best.
Goldberg's attorney says
he's not a fugitive. He's never been a fugitive.
Goldberg's attorney claims the suspect spent the last several months backpacking through the Middle East.
Dror Goldberg is wanted for murder. He needs to be brought back to the United States so he can face charges.
The idea of it, he was traveling. I am suspect about that. I just think that he thought that he was above the law and sort of did whatever he wanted to do. He was not interested in surrendering himself at any time.
I got a hold of an FBI agent I work with, and we filed a federal flight to avoid prosecution warrant so that if he did turn up overseas, at least the agency that recovered him would be able to hold him for us.
We were just desperate.
Dror Goldberg was on a layover in Frankfurt, Germany. And while he was at the Frankfurt airport, a very alert German police officer named Thorsten Rohrpach noticed he was acting a little funny and found his warrant in the system and arrested him.
At that point, we were very happy, and we started making arrangements to get him extradited back to the United States. We got to the airport, we accepted him from the U.S. Marshals, we drove to the police station. The whole way I'm in the car with Dror, he's saying, my lawyer's Dick DeGuerin, my lawyer's Dick DeGuerin. And I'm not saying anything, but I'm thinking, yeah, well, my lawyer's Kelly Siegler.
Then we hear $20,000 to get him out, and we were livid.
I was really surprised that this was allowed to happen. After all the difficulty we had in locating him, that he was allowed to walk out once he posted bond.
The first time that I handled a murder case and I learned that the standard bond was only $20,000, I was shocked. Manuela's daughters were upset, rightfully so, because they don't understand that that's what was standard.
It's a good relief that he has been caught, but we should never be standing here right now appealing for him to be out on bond.
The problem was Dror Goldberg was a flight risk. Once you flee one time, the odds are they're going to flee again, especially when you're looking at a murder charge. So his bond should have been higher. I took over the case because the prosecutor who was handling the case decided to run for district attorney. And because he was busy campaigning, he gave the case to Lester and me to handle for trial. Dick had the case for over a year. He had all that time to get ready for his defense. Lester and I had 2 months to get ready for trial. That alone was pressure enough, but putting all these little pieces together as evidence is what is critical to this case. And the big crazy thing in this case is, where's the motive? If you didn't do it because of a robbery or trying to take something from the crime scene, why would you do this horrible crime? What is the motive? It wasn't long before I found out. I was working late one night in special crimes, and a phone rang down the hall. And I answered the phone, and that witness turned out to be Josh Vogel, who was a close friend of Dror Goldberg. Josh Vogel tells me that when they were younger, Dror Goldberg started writing letters to Josh Vogel, and it was what was in those letters that he was calling to tell me about. The letters were very graphic and very descriptive about the need and the desire to want to hurt somebody, specifically to want to rape somebody, to want to kill somebody. He talked about how it was changing him and turning him into a violent, bloodthirsty young man, and he liked it. It was crazy to think somebody would feel this way, coming from this, what you would think would be an all-American boy. But Dror Goldberg was writing it down exactly what he wanted to do. So the idea that this was really a thrill kill is building. So we took those letters, asked for a hearing, had the judge read the letters to present to her the fact that she has a man out on bond out of her court walking around with these desires percolating in his brain.
As the judge is reading the letters, I can see the judge's face. And right then and there, she said, bond revoked. We're like, yes.
Dror Goldberg was facing trial for the murder charge against Manny Silverio. The charges that could have been filed for the attack and the aggravated assault against the Ingrandos was saved for another day. That could always be used and addressed down the road if something went wrong in the trial for murder. But in this case, the issue was always going to be, why would Dror Goldberg do this? It doesn't make any sense. The people that think they know him best really know him the least. His grandparents, his parents, his friends. He looks like the perfect all-American boy, and he's nothing like that. The defense counters and comes out full speed ahead with, this is mistaken identity. But the eyewitness testimony is what's critical to this case. I mean, I've heard a lot about what Dick DeGuerin does in a courtroom, doing everything he can to poke as many holes in at reasonable doubt. I'd never seen him in trial before, and boy, did I learn a lot.
When we went to court the first time, and when we saw what Dror looked like, I was horrified. He looks so different, because that's exactly what they try to do. They try to make him look different. So now he no longer has his highlights, his hair combed down, and he had gained like 40 pounds. From day one, they were putting doubt that these eyewitnesses were not right. It made me very nervous.
Roberta, on the witness stand, I thought she did great. She came across as very consistent and credible, but Dick tried to pick on her in cross-examination with the color of Dror's hair.
He asked me about the hair. I said, what color hair he have? I said, sandy hair. He said, oh no. He said, look at him, he have dark hair.
Dick was trying to say to Roberta, if you look at Dror in the courtroom today, his hair is dark. And if you look at his hair in the video lineup, it's a different color than Sandy. There's no Sandy hair here. Why are you saying Sandy hair? You got the wrong person.
You know, hair is my business. I really talked back to him. He did not expect it neither.
Also testifying, this witness, a medical resident who took down a license plate number.
When Kelly was asking me questions, you know, the eyewitness accounts and the photo lineup, and it was just basically like story time. It was very casual. When Dick DeGuerin was asking me questions, he had a co-lawyer with him too, and they were asking me multiple questions, and they seemed to ask me the same question multiple times and trying to change the words a little bit to try to, I guess, trick me up.
Oh my God, cross-examination is Dick's best tool and weapon. And I had no idea exactly why or how he did it, but I got a first-hand class and why he's a master at that. I also got to see what he did with enough witnesses to where I could figure out how to beat him at his own game.
He asked me, was I wearing eyeglasses, and, you know, were you wearing them at the time? And I thought Dick was trying to disqualify my testimony.
Dr. Beckman, you couldn't get a better witness. Mr. Cross-Examination Dick DeGuerin that likes to cross people to exhaustion, he knew he was not going to beat that man at asking him questions. He gave up on Randall Beckman because he knew who won that round. In addition to trying to discredit Roberta and then trying to discredit Randall Beckman, he also brought in Elizabeth Loftus. Elizabeth Loftus is a PhD that took it upon herself to become an expert in eyewitness identification. Unconscious transference is what Elizabeth Loftus tried to say happened to Randall Beckman. That because Randall Beckman worked in a hospital where Dror Goldberg's father also worked, Dr. Beckman had to have seen Dror Goldberg at lunch one day with his daddy, and that was implanted in his brain, and that's what was causing him to identify Dror Goldberg as being the person running out of the wig shop. That's what she said.
We're sitting there like, really?
Well, when you pick apart all of the underlying reasons why she says you shouldn't trust eyewitness identification, none of them applied in this case. Dr. Loftus talks a whole lot about how when a gun is pointed in your face, you can't focus on the person holding the gun because you're too worried about the gun. Well, maybe great if that's Roberta, but it didn't apply to Randall Beckman. And then her theory of unconscious transference. Maybe that applied to Randall Beckman, if you want to believe that crazy story, but it didn't apply to Roberta. It was very clear. She never even bothered to read one page of the police report.
DeGuerin really thought by putting this expert witness there, that was it. It was a done deal. Kelly did her homework, his homework, and everybody else's homework.
Yes, she did. I read every word of every one of her books and took her to town on her theories. By the time she left the witness stand, she said that because of me, she never wanted to come back to Texas. Every prosecutor understands that whatever your facts might be, however strong they might be in a murder, you still need to establish a motive. So in order to do that, and to do that in this case, we called to the witness stand the one person in this world at that time who could prove what Drawer Goldberg's motive really was. We're halfway through the trial, and the case is going really well from all that I can see, but Dick is doing his level best to try and poke as many holes in the case as he possibly can. We called a lab tech with the HPD Crime Lab who testified to the jury about the fact that when the Lincoln Navigator was processed, they found in the floorboard area, the driver's side, and all around that area, wick vipers.
So DeGuerin goes in there and tries to dissect this, and he's saying it's a wig fiber. You don't know what wig it came from.
See, that's another thing that I've learned that Dick DeGuerin always does. He always tries to have an answer for everything, and he always overplays his hand and goes too far. Dick had to come up with an explanation for the wig fiber. So what Dick came up with was he put Drawer Goldberg's sweet little old grandmother on the stand to testify that she went to that wig shop a couple of days or a week earlier, and she must have gotten some wig fibers on her shoes, and she wears a wig sometimes even herself, and that's why wig fibers ended up in that dang Navigator. Ha!
Grandma was so coached that the minute Kaylee asked her one question, threw her off completely.
Which was my favorite.
When I asked her, well, where'd you sit in the car, Miss Goldberg? She looked at Dick, because she didn't know what to say. So that blew up in his face, too.
I mean, Kelly's discrediting her completely. But what did the jurors believe? No fingerprints, no DNA, no murder weapon.
The knife is not the right one.
No motive. There's no motive.
We're always taught that a motive is not a required element to prove in a murder case, but if you can't show why someone would commit a murder, especially one like this where there's no connection at all between the defendant and the victim, you're not going to win that case. To prove the motive, we had to try and establish that Drawer Goldberg did this murder because of a need and a desire to want to see what it felt like to kill somebody. So in order to do that, we called to the witness stand the one person in this world at that time who could tell us what kind of brain ticks inside his head. Back in 1995, when Drawer Goldberg was a student at Bel Air High School, Susie Grice Pendergrass was an officer assigned to that school at the time. When Drawer Goldberg leaves the school parking lot and throws a beer can out the car window, they stop the car, they get him out of the car, then they take him to the principal's office.
I am looking through his backpack, looking for dope, marijuana, whatever he's got in there. Then I get a spiral notebook out, start going through the pages. Kids will put dope anywhere. And when I flipped the page, there was a title, How to Kill Women. He says that the urge to kill is getting stronger. Doesn't know if he can fight it. I've never been so disturbed and so emotional over a writing in my life.
The journal ended up being returned to Michelle Goldberg, Jor's mother, gone forever. But because when Susie Pendergrass read those writings, it affected her so greatly, she can recall what it said. The law allows for you to talk about that because of the impression it made on her at the time.
He says, I'm making tiny slits all over her body so that when she looks down, she'll see red.
He saw Katia is Nick, just.
And she knows she's gonna die. I'm asking her, do you feel pretty?
I'm gonna cut your ear, I'm gonna make you pretty.
I'm gonna do it some more. Do you feel pretty?
Wow. And then you realize what a psychopath he really is.
Susie testified, and it was very clear to everybody in that courtroom this was a thrill kill. Inside his mind ticked the head of someone really, really sick and depraved. It's just, wow.
When she starts talking about the notebook and says everything in detail, and then we find out that's the things that he told Roberta as he's stabbing her. What kind of sick motherfucker is this?
Yes. That certainly was something that you could offer to a judge and jury to explain where this person is coming from. These journals were certainly a window into a sick mind.
That journal and what it says about Jorah Goldberg is, again, exactly what I said in opening statement. You think you know him because he looks like this, like the all-American boy. None of us have any idea what he's really like, how sick he really is. These writings tell us what kind of a person he is, but just looking at him here in the courtroom, just growing up with him and going to school with him, you don't know what he's like.
I knew he was gonna kill. I've never had a feeling about anybody like that before. In his writing, he had talked about wanting an audience of women. Mannequins look like plastic women in the wig shop. There were all these mannequins, and they looked real. And I thought, this is his audience of women. This is his audience of women.
We don't have the murder weapon, and we don't have any DNA evidence, but you know what? HPD and Lester and I have put together a beautiful case against Jorah Goldberg. The jury now has the case in their hands, and it's time for us to just sit here and watch the clock tick and wait for their verdict.
It would only take one juror to say, I'm not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. But Kelly Siegler doesn't back down. She didn't back down to Mr. Garrett. She wouldn't back down to the devil himself.
There's anxiety anytime you're waiting for a jury to come back on a trial. You've done your best job, you've taken your best shot, and you just hope it's good enough.
If he's not guilty, he's out on the street like nothing.
It was a really hard-fought case with a lot of things to consider and maybe a difficult case to get your head around.
The verdict is read. Goldberg is guilty of murdering Manuela Silverio at a Southwest Houston wig shop in November 1998.
Guilty? Yeah, wow. That's all we had to hear was guilty. That's it. We have justice for our mother.
Yes.
It's definitely a relief. I wouldn't say there's like joy involved in it because so many lives are ruined, but there's a sense of relief that we did our jobs and everything came out right.
Just before hearing his sentence, Jorah Goldberg winks at his family and mouths, I love you to them. Just seconds later, Goldberg shows little reaction as a jury sentences him to 48 years in prison.
I heard 48 years and I did not hear life. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he didn't get life. He didn't get life. And now we got to fight to keep him in. That psychopath cannot go anywhere.
So now he's fighting for parole. What do you think about that?
I think he should not go. I'm afraid he's going to come and finish the job.
Have you said your opposition to it?
Yes.
Good for you.
I sent the letter. Okay. My daughter sent the letter.
If you protest, that's all you can do.
There's no way the parole board could ever think. I mean, I'm asking them, please don't let him out. An animal like that, the way he murdered and tortured my mother, he would be a danger if he is let out. We've all would be in danger.
I had nightmares over this. This was something that never left me. Never left me. I knew he was going to kill. And he's a cold-blooded, sadistic, evil, torturing killer.
He didn't get the life sentence, but we did. And we have to fight for our mom, and we have to do this so justice is served. And he needs to rot in hell.
I want my children not to have to worry about this. And my grandchildren, we just would like to see that he will stay in prison.
You didn't let him beat you.
No, I did not want him
to win.
Yes.
So many pieces of the case just came together like a miracle.
Yeah.
You know that, Roberta?
Oh, yeah.
The best miracle is that you're standing here. You know that?
Yes. I know that. Thank God every day.
Yeah. And a strong lady to go through all this.
Now, it wasn't my time, I think. We become a different person. I don't go anywhere by myself. We are together day and night. We come to work together, we go home together, and just feel safe with him. And we love each other.
That helps.
That day changed their whole world. Yvonne and Yvette fought as hard as any two daughters or family could ever fight their cause. For what happened to their mom, she would be proud of them.
You don't have to give the power to who hurt you. You have to be strong.
Thank God we got justice. It wasn't a weak case. It wasn't just a circumstantial evidence case, like that's a bad word. Criminal trials started with eyewitness testimony before fingerprints and ballistics and DNA and everything. And this case goes back to that reminder. Dr. Beckman is a witness from heaven. You had Roberta and you had Susie Pendergrass with their eyewitness testimony. When you put it all together, this was a beautiful case.